north side of Crysler for this last episode in how Crysler has reinvented itself over the last 220 years. This area was built up about 2010 or thereabouts. It's quite mature trees now. But what we've seen in this series is that things have really changed in Crysler. It keeps reinventing itself many times. It started along the river with John Crysler and his sawmill and his grist mill. It grew into a new settlement under John Pliny Crysler. And then we had the francophone shift, in which case the francophone cultural heritage began to take over the entire portion of Crysler. And the founding families continued to make it stronger over the years, and the volunteers kept it going really during those doldrum times just before the turn of the 21st century. Then suddenly something happened, and now we're in the midst of a change again for Crysler as it's reinventing itself. This is what we call the urban movement, people that came from the urban areas into Crysler. And it's an interesting story. Today we're going to do a little bit on that, and we're going to wrap up our series. This is the last in our series on Crysler about how it's reinvented itself so many times over its entire history. So we're just going to walk for a little short while here. This is the north side of Crysler. Lovely subdivision. It's called Flagstone Acres. And as you can see, some mature trees starting. But something started to happen here about 2010. And folks from urban communities started moving here as new houses were built. And with the growth in Crysler on the north side, more and more folks were starting to come here and settle on the south side. Suddenly there was a wave, and they came for the space, and they came for the affordability, and they came for the sense of community. Things that were getting harder to find in the cities. And many of them were Anglophones. So these newcomers to Crysler, they didn't arrive to a blank slate. It's certainly a beautiful, beautiful location. And of course, now you no longer have flooding with these dikes that were built in the 80s. Those francophone families continue to have built businesses and kept this community going. It was a series of generations of francophone families that made it happen, and that remarkable spirit of volunteerism. And these are the folks that created recreational lands that brought these families together. So the result of these influx of urbanites wasn't a cultural shift. It was a cultural inheritance. Crysler was becoming a modern, bilingual village, not by erasing its past, but by carrying it forward. Then suddenly, COVID hit in 2019 and working from home became the normal, suddenly this village wasn't too far away from jobs. It was ideal. Two local builders, Philippe Gregoire and Steve Encarnacio of G&E Construction, they saw the opportunity clearly. And while construction stalled in Ottawa and prices soared, they built 20 homes in this area right here, the south end of Crysler, and families snapped them up. Not because they were fleeing the city, but because they were choosing a different kind of life. Well, that success has become the spark for something much bigger. Here we are on the north side across from Flagstone Acres. And even as employees were being called back to work, the demand for new housing hasn't slowed down here in Crysler. It's become a commuter village. And it's a place where families can still afford to come. As we go over here, we can see the piles of gravel going in, the new homes over here. And the recent government interest in affordable housing and monetary incentives are helping others to come here as well. Houses keep selling. There's lots of work going on, as you can see. And in fact, in some areas, what you're finding is that other developers are seeing the light. And as I go across here, you can see the water tower in the distance. This is a new house here. But right behind in that field is supposed to be an area for another 90 new homes. You can see the survey posts in the distance. And so things are happening not only with G&E, but also on this side as well. More houses going in, and that tree line there is the river, the same river that John Crysler started things on in 1806. So as we look at the last chapter in this particular series, I want you to look out here behind me and see a couple of things that are happening. First of all, we have the quiet cemetery where the founder of this community, John Crysler, is buried. But in behind, we have the next addition, the Urbanites, who are now coming to settle in Crysler. This has been an amazing community for regenerating itself, starting from those early days along the South Nation River. John Crysler's son, John Pliny Crysler, who did an amazing job of preparing the settlement, bringing in the folks, being established for the railways, for the growth, and then for those francophone families, family after family after family, generation after generation after generation, keeping this amazing community going during the war era, Second World War era, and in that post-war period, we find the builders that kept this community going. and the volunteers that have made this such a great place to live, even during the doldrums. And now we see Crysler is being regenerated, rejuvenated again. And behind me you can hear the sounds of those heavy equipment building more and more houses. What's the future of this community? Rest assured, it will continue to rejuvenate itself and be kind to the people who live here. Well, thanks for joining me on this series of walks. Stay tuned for the next village walk. I must say though, MainstreetRob is going to take a few weeks off for some needed surgery on his knee. So in the meantime, if you want to keep up to things, you can go to MainstreetRob.com for some written material. Or also, while I'm recuperating, I've established another website that you may be interested in, MainstreetRob Armchair Tales. Little 5-minute anecdotes of some very interesting times I've had over my lifetime. I hope you'll join me on all of those, and I'll see you back for the next village walk sometime in the summer.